Well, hello, Captains. This is the Doctor, and welcome to 2017. And now that it's 2017, we have some Star Trek Online news that has come our way. And this is some exciting things that are coming. And rightly so, I say, because there is a special event that generally happens right around this time that we need to talk about. And we are, of course, talking about the anniversary for Star Trek Online. It comes in February, and it has come every year since this game has been out. And I believe this is the seventh year of this game. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but after you've played a game continuously for 7 years, you start to forget how long you've actually been in it. Yeah, we are at the 7th year anniversary, which is pretty exciting. And what that generally means for Star Trek Online is a free ship and a playable featured episode. We generally get at least that every anniversary. That is actually quite a few free ships during a year's time. If you think about it, it's a free ship during the anniversary event in February, then a free ship during the summer event, then a free ship in the winter event. So they actually do give several free ships away during a year's time. That's very good for free-to-play players because they don't actually have to buy a ship in this game. You can just wait for these events to come. Well, we're at one of those events, and it happens so quickly after, or actually during or right after, the winter event has ended. And now it's already time for the anniversary event. Like I said, generally, we get a featured episode to play. That gives us marks, or anniversary marks, or commendations, or whatever you want to call them. And then you have to play daily every day to earn the rest so you can get the ship. This year, what they're doing, and what I have been reading in Star Trek Online news, is that they're kind of combining this anniversary event with a season update. So we're kind of getting an amalgamation of both a season update, or what we would consider a season update in Star Trek Online, plus an anniversary event. I think generally here at the same time. I think they're going to be released at the same time. I don't know for sure. But we are talking about Season 12. That's the big news here. Season 12 of Star Trek Online is coming. Now, what that means, a season update is not an expansion, so do not expect expansion level content here by any stretch of the imagination. This is a season update, which can still bring with it some pretty substantial updates to the game, which, of course, keep the game moving forward. So I've been reading all these news bits here, and I've read all of them already, but I want to go through them with you guys so that you are aware of what's coming. We've got a lot to talk about here. You can see all the tabs that I'm going to go through, but I'm getting all of this, of course, from the Star Trek Online news page. You can go here yourself and check out the news page and read these articles. There's a lot more here that I'm going to show you because some of it's not really relevant to the anniversary update or the season update that's coming, but other stuff. So come to Star Trek Online. I'll put a link at the bottom in the description, and you can come to this webpage and read some of this stuff on your own. But what I'm going to do today is we're going to go through these news items, read them, see what's coming, and then I'm going to discuss it. So I wish I had a back and forth discussion I could do with you guys. Obviously, this is just one way right now. But I look forward to your feedback in the comments about my discussion. I'm sure I have some things to say about some of this stuff, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say as well. Okay, the first bit of news that we've come to, and I'll zoom in here so we can see this well. Tony Todd joins Star Trek Online. Tony Todd is an actor, a well-known actor, and he has played roles in Star Trek, and one of those is Klingon. He has played a Klingon role in the TV series. Very, very, very well-known actor. We are proud to announce that actor Tony Todd will portray General Roddick in an upcoming update of Star Trek Online for the PC. Roddick begins life as Kurn, the brother of Worf, in Star Trek The Next Generation. Kurn was an aggressive Klingon commander who, when he first meets Worf, spurs Worf into showing his true Klingon self by provoking him. Despite this initial harsh meeting, Kurn and Worf go on to share many perilous adventures in both TNG and DS9, sometimes on the same side. Other times in conflict. They have a volatile relationship. Ultimately, Worf has Kurn's memory wiped clean and his facial features altered, a gesture to restore his honor. From that day forward, he was known as Roddick. So, I knew about the Kurn thing. I do remember that episode in TNG. Not so sure I remember the whole facial thing and Roddick. If that happened in the series, I'm just forgetting that. If that's something new that they're creating for the game, well, then that's cool. But I guess it is. I guess it was in the series. I don't know how or why I forgot that, but there you go. Roddick's facial appearance changes slightly between his appearances. In TNG, he is weary, slightly thinner, and obviously younger. In DS9, he had aged a bit, and his facial features are somewhat fuller, yet still hiding an aggressive spirit underneath. His hair, in particular, had changed. In DS9, it looks more voluminous and less wispy. The Kurn we saw in TNG was often aggressive and reckless. The one we see in DS9 exhibits a more seasoned, if not pessimistic, attitude on life. When Kurn's identity is changed to Roddick, the individual aspects of his appearance alter in a more subtle way, but together they form a much different looking character. The folds of his forehead are different, he loses the hair on his chin, the shape of his eyebrows change, and most of all, his outward demeanor is not as dark as it once was, though some may wonder if he remembers anything at all of his painful past. I'm not remembering this mind wipe and facial change of Kurn to Roddick in the series. Is that real? Did that really happen? Or what episode was that? If someone could point me toward that, I'll check out that episode, because I'm just not recalling that. But there's a lot about the Klingons I just really did not pay attention to. But anyway, in the end, Kurn's transformation to Roddick is one of the more interesting changes a character goes through in the Star Trek universe. So I guess it's true, it did happen. Not many characters get a rebirth like this, and fewer still get a long story arc to go with it. Because of his troubled past, this character will be one of the more exciting ones to follow. You can check out a short interview with Tony Todd about his career, his Star Trek memories, and his involvement with Stowe. I'm not going to play this now, but you're welcome to listen to this. I have not listened to this yet, so I will do that after this. Tony Todd joined Star Trek Online. So obviously they had to make his likeness, in the game, and I guess they're going to go with the Roddick look, although they've got both looks here. They've got his original look, don't they? And then they have his Roddick look. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. That's interesting, though. It's just another well-known Star Trek actor who is coming to Star Trek Online to do voices. I mean, that's always welcomed. It makes the game definitely feel more like Star Trek when you have the actual Star Trek actors speaking for the characters. So that's cool. Let's close that. Okay, the Tzenkethi are coming. This is the big news here. This is Season 12 stuff. Like I said, I don't know the release date of Season 12. I'm guessing around the anniversary time in February, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we'll find out through reading this. But the Tzenkethi, that's the big thing. Now, we learned about this Tzenkethi stuff in the last playable episode that was released. The name is completely out of my memory at this moment, the name of the actual mission, what it was. But it was the one where we took the Lucari. Is it the Lucari? Did I say that right? The Lucari out on their first mission, and they find a Gekli and are all happy with the Gekli and everything. But then we find K-13, and we find this world that the officers stranded on K-13 in the past visited, and then this like proto-matter stuff, and then we find out that the Tzenkethi are involved with that. So that's where we first learn about this involvement with the Tzenkethi, and so this is going to be a continuing storyline. This is naturally going to be the storyline that continues here after Future Proof. Now, I personally don't know anything about the Tzenkethi. From what I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, from what I've heard, they were mentioned in DS9, but I don't know if we ever saw them or ever dealt with them. So they are a species that was mentioned that exists in the actual TV show. So they're canon, but I just don't think we've ever dealt with them before. I think there was some kind of Federation Tzenkethi war. That's what it was alluded to. That has happened in the past. And apparently they are very technologically advanced. And we had a war with them. And we won, I guess. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we won. But I don't think we've ever seen them on screen. So what this is another one of those things where Star Trek Online, the game, has taken something mentioned in the TV show and expanded on it. But what that means is that Cryptic has to design all of this stuff based on the Tzenkethi from scratch. They have no like original art to reference. So this is all a Cryptic design, Cryptic made alien species based on what they heard in the TV show. Does that make sense? So it's not something we've ever seen before on TV. It's something that Cryptic has taken that they've heard and then built their own universe around that. So I just have this picture up here so you can see what they look like. They kind of look like rhinos to me in a way, referenced by this horn-shaped helmet thing they have on their heads. They look like walking rhinos. That's the impression I get here. In the history of Star Trek Online, we don't think there has been any enemy group as challenging to bring to life as the Tzenkethi. We explored a wide range of ideas from the femme fatale kind of alien to the current brute iteration. At some point, the Tzenkethi had 4, 2, 6 legs, and even tentacles. We ended up with the reptilian type, but we tried not to make them look like a generic reptilian. They have dragon-like heads, rhino-like skin, and 4 arms. 2 arms are really strong, and 2 are weaker for nimble, precise handling. Their backs have a set of bony plaques that give them the impression of a turtle-like shell, giving these already powerful creatures one less weak spot. Fully armored, each individual Tzenkethi resembles a walking weapons platform. So they had some wild ideas with the designs, but they went with this like reptilian rhino kind of deal here. Definitely alien. And it makes sense that they are more of a reptilian species, considering what area of space they're from. If you look on the space map of Star Trek Online, they're in the area near where the Breen are. And the Breen are, well, we don't know exactly what kind of alien they are. We've never seen them outside of their environmental suits. But we get the impression that the Breen are some kind of maybe reptilian, or some kind of something other than a mammal. And that falls in line with these aliens here who are also reptilian from that same area of space. Kind of makes sense just based on their location. So I kind of like that idea. Here is some concept art of them. Interesting thing about the arms. I don't know, it looks kind of funky, but they have 2 strong arms and then 2 weak arms. I don't know, it's weird, but I guess it's alien, so it works. It's definitely alien. The Tzenkethi are a force that can match any member of the Alliance. They're a militant, warp-capable species, and they're highly intelligent. From the beginning, we knew we wanted a fight with the Tzenkethi to be a fight you could get better at by knowing more about them. Your first fight with them will probably be your most difficult one. What this meant was that we needed actions for many different situations. They will keep their enemies on their toes by being outfitted with technology that allows them to potentially deploy multiple types of drones or fire a grenade launcher with multiple firing modes. Beyond this technology, the Tzenkethi need to be resilient, but not a damaged sponge. We pursued what we called a smart tanky. We wanted their technology to lend itself to potential survivability, but all of it can be countered. Kinda cool. An example of this execution is their backpacks based on proto-matter technology. They are a strong power source for the Tzenkethi armaments. While alive, a Tzenkethi can utilize the technology that their backpack is equipped with for offensive or support capabilities. When a Tzenkethi falls, sometimes their backpacks remain in a powered state. This allows nearby Tzenkethi to reuse the incredible restorative power from it until the backpack's power reserves are depleted. Ultimately, the powerful stature of a Tzenkethi cannot be ignored. Proud, higher-ranking Tzenkethi are outfitted with the best technology available. However, if they feel their technology isn't getting the job done, you will often see them throw down their weapons and go in with their natural might to finish it. We don't want to spoil all of their tricks, however. Finding those out will be part of the fun. We're all confident that the Star Trek Online community of captains is up to the challenge of anything that Tzenkethi can throw at them. I like this idea of having an alien species here that has a dynamic fighting ability so that it changes and you're not fully aware of what they're going to do all the time. An intelligent tank sounds like a really cool idea. I don't know if the AI of this game is up to that kind of challenge. But it would be really cool if they have upped the AI in this game so that the enemies could actually learn from your actions and do things based on your movement and your actions. For example, other more advanced games that are out today, like shooter games, FPS games, they are able to predict movements of your character and do things like turn around and flank your character based on, actions that you're doing. The AI is smart enough that it can control the NPCs and tell them to do things based on what you're doing in the game, being a dynamic player that way instead of just a scripted event. Now, up to this point, I think all of Star Trek Online's AI is a scripted event. None of it is really dynamic. It's all scripted. Only what cryptic programs for the AI to do, it will do. It is not a dynamic AI. It's just it's a pretty old game engine. But maybe they are trying to simulate some kind of dynamic AI through the game, and without a complete overhaul, of course, that's pretty much all they could do. But if they could do something like that and give the impression that the enemy is dynamic and can change based on your actions, that would be so cool. Now, I don't know that that's what's happening here. I cannot say that for sure yet. But it sounds like that may be something they want to do or wanted to do with this enemy, and with a fully dynamic AI, they could realize that. They just don't have that capability right now. But I like the idea that they're thinking that way and that they want to push the boundaries of the engine. They want to push the boundaries of the game, and they want to make enemies that can do that. That to me sounds good. I would love to see that. Anyway, we'll see how this actually turns out in the actual real world of the game once it's there. Art creation. We're excited to share some behind-the-scenes art development of these unique creatures for Star Trek Online. First, these guys were absolutely one of the most challenging of any STO species, in the ranks of difficulty compared to the bluegills and the undine. Because of the extra arms, tail, and extreme body protrusions, there was a lot of back-and-forth revisions and collaboration across many departments throughout the process before it came to the final game version. Hector Ortiz did the bulk of the original concept work, designing the body, the suit, the guns, the backpack. After that, we decided we wanted more distinction in the silhouettes between ranks. Since the species is on its own animation skeleton with very non-humanoid proportions, it can't easily share any of our normal equipment or clothing, so anything we wanted for them had to be created from scratch. I wish they would do more of that creating from scratch kind of stuff, to be honest with you. But it seems they do like to share a lot of resources instead of creating just new stuff. Using Hector's designs as a basis, we created a set of modular armor for 4 ranks: Ensign, Lieutenant, Commander, and Captain. One of the biggest goals for this group was to get the idea across that their technology was highly advanced without forgetting that the Tzenkethi are proud of their natural strength and size. Something else we had talked about was the idea of the small arms interacting with alien tech keyboards and displays on the gauntlets and maybe the waist plate, while the big arms held the big guns. Work on the actual body started with a very low poly basic shape and proportions in 3ds Max. That was then brought into ZBrush to sculpt out a very high poly and high detail model. Another low poly model was made from that to make the game version, ensuring that the joints animate well and as much detail is kept from the high poly as possible. Other textures are created, including color, and in this case glow. Now, this I know about the game engine. It does not support a very high poly count, so Yeah, while this thing looked a whole lot better in its original creation, when they dumb it down, quote, dumb it down to the game engine, it's going to lose a lot of that polygon count. Anyway, at this stage, there was testing and revisions done both to the models and the skeleton. As you can see in the whip image, some of the proportions don't feel quite right yet. Shoulders stiff and high, head a little too big. The suit is an early version as well. Next, the armor was built in 3ds Max, and most of the detail for the armor bits was done through Photoshop and a normal map creation tool called Crazy Bump. Finally, after all the parts are in and the colors are tweaked, we have the complete Tzenkethi critter group. So here we got the ensign, and it looks like the ensign, you can see a size comparison to a normal human here as well. Looks like the ensign is got less gear for sure. It looks like they have increasing gear as you go up to captain here, for sure. This will be interesting. I really look forward to it. Even though their heads don't have rhino heads, for some reason the captain still has like a rhino horn on it. But the others don't have that piece. Interesting. Well, I look forward to them. These Tzenkethi. It should be interesting to fight and see on screen. I look forward to that. A new alien species in the game, always welcomed. More about designing the Tzenkethi ships, because obviously if they're going to have these Tzenkethi, ground troops, they're going to have Tzenkethi ships. And I'm guessing maybe that's what we're going to get as our ship, is a Tzenkethi ship. If not right now, I'm pretty sure eventually we'll get Tzenkethi ships, but maybe they are. Let's read over this. Designing these Tzenkethi starships. We designed the Tzenkethi character models first, so when we designed the species spaceships, we knew they had to continue the character of those distinctive designs. We chose a closed-shaped language and put extra emphasis in making them look like flying shells. They had to look tanky and blunt. Later, we decided to add graphic decorations so the ships would look more stylish and intelligent. Alright, as with the ground forces, a fight with the Tzenkethi in space will become easier as you understand their tactics and capabilities. Sometimes that you'll come to realize early on, or something that you'll come to realize early on, is that a Tzenkethi ship is highly resilient, and the strength of their shields is tough to rival. However, no design is without its weakness. In order for the Tzenkethi to accommodate the strength of weaponry they desired, they needed to sacrifice their forward-facing shield power. In addition, this also meant that they needed to localize their weaponry to keep efficiency up. This resulted in the primary means of damage to be front-facing as well. The Tzenkethi would not allow such a flaw with their weapon setup to exist on its own. In response, they equipped all of their ships with familiar mobile capabilities to more than make up for the weapon loadout disparity. The Tzenkethi know that the strength of their fellow comrades. As a result, certain Tzenkethi ships are able to make Tzenkethi technology operate more efficiently when they are in close proximity to each other. Proceed with caution if you plan to employ bunching tactics against a group of Tzenkethi ships. Higher rank Tzenkethi ships come equipped with long-range proto-matter-laced weaponry. While these weapons can't lock on to a ship post-launch, they are extremely potent to the unaware target. As an additional benefit to the proto-matter aspect of the weaponry and Tzenkethi technology, the explosions leave behind volatile radioactive clouds. These clouds are extremely dangerous to non-Tzenkethi ships. However, Tzenkethi have adapted their technology to reuse and draw in proto-matter. This provides their ship with increased restorative properties and strengthened defense capabilities. In space, the Tzenkethi are formidable and not without a few other tricks. We believe that the Star Trek community of captains will show adaptability and cleverness that even Tzenkethi will not be ready for. Very interesting. They gave a lot of information away right there about the tactics of the Tzenkethi and how to maybe take out some of their ships. So that's interesting. I like that they're really thinking hard on, how this alien species would, develop their ships. They put a lot of thought into that. I give them credit for that. The Tzenkethi ships have been quite fun and very interesting to work on. Since we don't know much about them, it has been a very rewarding experience for all artists at Cryptic to develop a language for the design of a strange alien culture. The first steps for the building of any ship come from our talented concept artist Hector Ortiz. He supplied us with very detailed drawings that included different views of the ships and an actual 3D sketch that he made in 3ds Max.
After that, we had meetings and wrote emails, a lot of them, where we discussed all the details that would make these ships so unique. One of the most one most of the once most of the information about design is sorted out and we have a good idea of what we need to achieve, we started to figure out that the actual material for the Tzenkethi fleet of ships. I will break down the concept into all the different details and panels that need to follow our ship material master template. All ships need to follow certain constraints so the players can exchange different materials all across the board. Some parts need to be simplified, others need to be able to tile. There is also room for creating new parts, like a weapon port or a section of a panel. Okay, looks like you're going with a tiled, kind of scaly looking ship texture. Pretty cool. And then we go into detail about this. If you're not interested, you can skip ahead, of course, to the next topic, but I do want to read over this because I think it is interesting. And I like to know the history behind, their designing of these new ships, new creatures, and new things. Again, you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear all this, but I am going to read through this. Once we have resolved the placement of where everything belongs in the basic shapes that we need to accomplish, we start building the different sections of the material. One of the ideas for the Tzenkethi was the use of plates that are similar to strong shells that are used for armor. We looked at alligators, crocodiles, turtles, lizards, and monitors. Monitors? What's a monitor? Well, I know what a monitor is, but what's a monitor? The art director even mentioned the basilisk from D&D. This became the most used section for the material. We built elongated shells in ZBrush, giving the fleet a very specific look and feel that would make them unique. Yeah, definitely scaling look there. Every other section was built in 3ds Max. We kept in mind the organic lines that were going for the main panels and kept straight geometrical lines for trims and mechanical areas, like grills and plate connections. Nothing is still set in stone, as the idea is always to be able to move pieces and details to make the most of the texture size we can use. Once all the modeling is done, we create 2D textures based on the geometry that was built. The most important aspect at this point are ambient occlusion, material ID, and a normal map. There are other ones that we use, like a cavity map, and a height map, and other ID maps. So here's the ambient occlusion map, so you can see where all the how everything would layer on top of each other. That gives depth to it. That allows the depth to it. Here's the material ID maps, so they know what materials to map onto the things. The source files that we created are brought into Substance Designer. Here we will combine them to create the actual material that will give the ships their look. We look into all the specific properties that make each section of the ship so unique. It might be the undertones under a metal or the way light travels over a semi-dull surface. There is also room to create something unique, like the way the armored shell would behave. When you look at a beetle, you can perceive iridescence. So we wanted to place some of that on the material in just the right way to represent organic life under the armor. Ooh, I like this. They really are going detailed on this. I mean, this is probably one of the most detailed things they've done in the game, and honestly, really pushing the limits of the game engine. Because they are extremely limited by poly count, which I mentioned before, but they are also extremely limited by texture size. It is just not very big in this game. It's not good at all. It is low, 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 low. They are very limited on resources, so they have to squeeze a lot into a very minimal amount of area, space, detail, resolution. So I'm actually quite impressed with what they're pushing here. A separate material that we need to create is a sheet where decals, windows, and lights are placed. This will be applied over floating geometry that slightly hovers over the 3D model for the ships. Interesting. The outputs that we have out of Substance Designer are 4 textures: a diffuse map that has a reflection map in its alpha channel, a normal map, a luminosity map, and a color specular map that has a gloss map in its alpha channel. The reason for using this system is so that later on, when changes need to be made or materials need to be color shifted, it's much easier to go back and tweak properties. So they're using a lot of, current game technology here to create these things. They've got diffuse, normal maps, specular maps, which is all really cool. I just know it's not the highest detail that could ever be supported, but at least some of this technology is right up there. But they still are limited in resources, how much they can show on the screen at a time and so forth and all that. But these ships here probably will be one of the best looking ships they've ever designed in the game. That's what it's sounding like. Once the basic material was created, we started working on the actual 3D models for the ships. The first one we built was the battleship. We started from a 3D sketch that Hector Ortiz originally built while brainstorming the ship's overall shapes. It is an excellent guide and makes our job much easier. We would still spend most of our time refining shapes, looking for how all the parts intersect and making sure that the volumes are represented as well as the final concept. Something that we also look at is how shapes and lines blend and follow each other. This will make for a cohesive object that can be looked at from different angles and look plausible. We designed the battleship with a bulky front and a slender tail. It gives a menacing look. The front has multiple mouths that make it quite intimidating. So this is the front and that's the back then? Okay. I can see that, I suppose. You would think it would be the other way around, but sometimes they make ships that way too. So this is a front view of the battleship, it says. So the wide end is the front end. The narrow end is the back end, like a teardrop. And so that's cool. Interesting. Not a really, I mean, the textures and all that are going to look okay on this and all that. But, you know, in terms of its shape, it's really not out there in terms of shape. It really isn't. I mean, this teardrop shape, you've seen this a lot in sci-fi. It's really not, you know, unique. Yeah, the ships will look good, but the shape is been seen in sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi. It's a pretty common shape. So I don't know. They maybe could have done something a little more, in my opinion. There, yeah, the detail's going to be unique and all that, but still, it's the overall shape is been done before. To be honest, here's an underside view of the ship. It almost looks like it reminds me. It actually reminds me of the Cardassian ships because they're like that too. The Cardassian ships, they have a fat front end and then it goes to narrow in the back. I mean, really, it looks similar design to a Cardassian ship. So yeah, it's even been done in Star Trek. So not that uncommon, to be honest with you. The Tzenkethi Dreadnought was our favorite ship to build out of the three. We really liked the hammerhead look and how the light travels across the entire wingspan. The most complex piece to build was the swooping lines on the front and how they intersected with the wings. All those crevices had to intersect and have room for the lights to show through. We had some freedom designing the decals, but once we had them in place, we got a second opinion from Hector and minor tweaks were done to them. It's always good to have a second pair of eyes to look at your work. So this is the Dreadnought. It again is not an uncommon design in sci-fi to have, you know, the wings up front, so to speak. You don't really need wings on a spaceship, but anyway, you know, have wings up front, hammerhead type of look, like it said, and shape like that. There are ships that I've seen in sci-fi movies and shows that have looked like that, so again, not an extremely uncommon design, although maybe for Star Trek it's uncommon, but for other sci-fi it's not uncommon. But I do like the looks of it. I'm not saying I don't like the looks of it, the shape of it. I'm just saying it's not like a really, really unique design that you've never seen anywhere before. I've seen that look everywhere before. The Tzenkethi drones. Now, I love the look of these Tzenkethi drones. These look like fighter ships, like what we would fly in the real world, but like in a really advanced, like a fighter ship, you know, an Air Force fighter ship, you know, like 100 years in the future or something. That's what these look like. I really like the looks of them. The Tzenkethi drones didn't take as much time to make as the battleship or the Dreadnought. We started by looking at early sketches that Hector made and sent an email out to the ship team to see what people liked and what changes we could make. It had a kit bash approach to it, and after building a couple of big ships, you get a better idea about what makes the Tzenkethi ships unique. Because they are so much smaller, they need to be able to read from much farther distances, so the silhouette has to be simple, yet still have interesting parts to look at. Yeah, I really like those designs. They're like fighter pilot ships. I like that. It's like a futuristic fighter pilot ship. I would love to see something like that flying in the sky. I mean, that's beautiful design right there. That would make a beautiful, beautiful airplane fighter pilot ship. One of our favorite aspects of the design is the glowing lights that you see in between the different sections. It's what makes these ships come to life. There are also blinking lights and rotating materials that support this idea. One of the last things that we implemented were the decals. They support all the overall work and give the fleet another layer of complexibility. So again, I like the detail. Definitely A plus on the detail and all that. I'm just saying the shape. It's a well-known shape. You know what I'm saying. There's the hammerhead. Man, I love these though. Look at that. Look at this aft view. Look at the fore view. Look at that view. I mean, that is cool. Could you imagine like this as like our military's fighting ships? That's what they should look like today. Something like this. If they could design something like that, that would be just amazing. I love the way those look. Once the model is done, we need to place all the nodes that will display the impulse trails, warp trails, phaser cannons, torpedoes, and special effects. All those effects have been specially created to make this fleet unique. We also had to create 2 lower polygon versions for each of the ship's 3D models. This way they load into outer space at far distances without having to display all the polygons that you see up close. Once that is completed, we can run a batch file that brings all the parts into our engine, and then we can hook it all up, the sections together, and create the final assets. So there's the battleship, there's the dreadnought, and there's the drones. I look forward to seeing this in action. It sounds like they've put a lot of work into this, like maybe some of the most work they've ever put into starships. So I like that, and I appreciate the effort. I look forward to seeing what it looks like in action. And hopefully getting some myself. I would like to have some of these Tzenkethi ships. Okay, so here's the big 7th anniversary Season 12 announcement right here in like the middle of this video. I should have maybe made this video first, or this page here first. But here it is, Star Trek Online Reckoning. That's what they're calling it. It has an official name, and by that I mean Season 12. Season 12 is called Reckoning. It arrives a lot sooner than I thought. Holy crap. It arrives January 26th. That's this month. That's in a couple of weeks. That is well before the anniversary event. So Season 12 is not actually part of the anniversary. It's coming out before the anniversary, and then the anniversary will be after it, because the anniversary is in February. Wow, okay, let's read this. Perfect World Entertainment Incorporated, a leading publisher of free-to-play MMORPGs and Cryptic Studios, announced Star Trek Online will kick off its 7th anniversary with the release of Season 12 Reckoning. The newest chapter to the 100% free-to-play MMORPG based on the classic Star Trek franchise releases on PC January 26th and on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 at a later date. Season 12 celebrates Star Trek Online's upcoming anniversary with giveaways and minigames, plus 2 new space queues, a new research and development system category, and a featured episode titled of Signs and Portents. This year's anniversary event for Star Trek Online offers captains the opportunity to complete in-game missions to earn exciting rewards, including the new Tier 6 Lucari Science Vessel. So that's the ship we're getting, huh? A Lucari Science Vessel, Tier 6, which the community selected the design for last fall. Players can also participate in 2 daily missions, Omega Molecule Stabilization Daily and Party Patrol, to earn special rewards, and play the Omega Molecule Stabilization minigame with Q to earn materials to construct crafting kits. Festivities also include server-wide giveaways for in-game items, which will take place soon on a daily basis leading up to the anniversary event release. So actually, this is part of the anniversary event. I guess they're all just combining it into one thing. Why not, I guess. Mission details for Season 12 Reckoning will be revealed in the new featured episode of Signs and Portents, which will also feature the game's first appearance of General Roddick, voiced by actor Tony Todd. The update also unlocks an expansive amount of content of captains to explore, including a new reputation, a new crafting school, and the R&D system to create kits and modules, 2 brand new space queues, gravity kills, and the Tzenkethi front, and a full space battle zone that has the Alliance pitting itself against the Tzenkethi in a desperate bid to stop the production and deployment of protomatter. Star Trek Online is free to play, blah, 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 blah. Wow. So, there you go. January 26th
The fun begins. So close, so close. Guaranteed I will cover all of this. I'm going to play the 2 new queues. I'm going to go over the reputation. I'm going to go over the featured episode. I'm going to play that. May even do a may even for the first time, get this. I'm going to try this maybe. You can tell me if you like it or not. Maybe do a webcam capture of myself in the corner playing it so you can see the expressions on my face as I'm playing it. I don't know, it's just a thought. I could do it. I don't know. Let me know if maybe that's something you are interested in. I might do that. Just for that episode. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to play it all. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to make videos on it all. I want the science ship. I'm a huge science ship fan. You guys know that. So I want that Lucari science ship for sure. So I will be getting that. By the way, I have the Breen ship. I didn't even mention that. I got the Breen ship. So the winter event ship that was just released. So I will be doing a review on that ship in the future. But I got it, baby. Yeah, I'm going to do that ship. So there you go. Season 12, January 26th. Ooh, I'm going to be on that like syrup on pancakes. Okay, the Tzenkethi Battlezone. So we're getting a Battlezone and 2 queues. Maybe the Battlezone is one of the queues or whatever. But we're getting new STF stuff. Let's just call it STFs. We're getting some new STFs. Tzenkethi forces have set up operations in the Gonfra system at the far edges of explored space. The Tzenkethi Battlezone is a new area for level 60 captains. Tzenkethi ships guard new mining and construction operations, where the Tzenkethi have built facilities to harvest the raw material of the system and turn it into weaponry. Allied forces rally to set up blockades and counter the Tzenkethi construction projects, destroy their research data, and deny them the assets for their war machines. Of course, the Tzenkethi will fight to protect their operations. Once Allied forces have taken control of the area, captains must hold off the Tzenkethi dreadnoughts using metaphasic shielding. Succeed, and the Tzenkethi will be repulsed from the system. Fail, and their war efforts will continue. Completion of objectives in the Battlezone will award new Lucari marks, used for advancing through the Lucari Restoration Initiative reputation. Additionally, participation awards expertise and dilithium. The Tzenkethi Battlezone is available to level 60 captains of all factions, accessible from the Alpha Quadrant. So now we know the name of the new reputation as well, the Lucari Restoration Initiative reputation. What a long name. I have no idea what kind of equipment they could make available here. The Lucari, I mean, we don't know much about them yet, and they're not as advanced as we are. I mean, they're just now starting to explore space, as we learned in the last mission. So they're not as advanced, and I don't know what they would have to offer in terms of a reputation suite of stuff. So I don't know what we're getting, to be honest with you. Maybe it's disruptor stuff. Maybe it's proto-matter stuff. Proto-matter weapons. Could that be a thing? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, this Battlezone is a lot like, the Undine Battlezone or the Terran Battlezone. It's a place where you go and, you can do these objectives, take over parts of the map, and win the whole thing. It does help if you have a lot of people doing it, though. Just similar to the Undine Battlezone and the Terran Battlezone, if you don't have a lot of people in your zone helping you take over these areas, well, you're just not going to succeed very well. And that's really been the problem with these battle zones, is they build them so big that you need a whole lot of people in your zone working to be successful. If there's just like 1 to 3 to 5 people or whatever in the battle zone, you're not going to succeed. So I think the problem is they've made these battle zones a little too big. I wish they would design them with the idea in mind that you're going to get into these and there's not going to be a whole lot of people, and you still want to be able to succeed in it. I think they should downscale them so that it can be doable with like 10 or less people. Because right now that's what happens. You want to go play an Undine Battlezone, or you want to go play a Terran Empire Battlezone,
but you get in there and there's just not enough people to succeed and get all the marks and stuff you want. And that's been a problem because a lot of people have dropped off from playing the STFs, and there's just not enough people playing them, not enough people to fill the ranks, to get in there and play all these STFs and battle zones. So I hope they've thought about that. And if they haven't, they need to rethink that, and they need to scale some of this stuff down so that it can be successful with less players, because less and less people are playing these things. After the initial run of these things, the player base drops off the map and there's like nobody there playing these. So it's very hard to win these battle zones. That's been a problem, and I hope they consider that with this. If not, they need to listen, and they need to do that. They need to think about that. They need to think about, well, what if we only have 5 people playing in a battle zone? Those 5 people would still like to win the battle zone. That would be great. All right, let's read this next one. This is Gravity Kills in the Tzenkethi front. Obviously, a black hole. And they're taking here from what looks like that movie that I just forgot the name of. It's going to kill me now till I remember that name, because it's a recent movie, and it was actually a very good movie, very scientific movie about a black hole. My gosh, I forgot the name. Well, you all know the movie I'm thinking of. But that is what this picture looks like. What I'm trying to get at is the depiction of a black hole varies across sci-fi. Some people look at it as a flat disk, an accretion disk, and just this empty black spot in the middle, while others view it as a sphere or a three-dimensional object, which I think would be more accurate. Something, like this. The accretion disk might not be how we think it is. I don't know. I'm just saying, I like this view, and I like that movie's view of how, especially when that movie talked about the wormhole, and the wormhole being like a spherical 3D doorway in space. That is pretty much, I think, how a wormhole would really look. It would be like a 3D hole in space. It wouldn't just be like Star Trek shows, just a two-dimensional, portal in space. It would be like a reflective 3D object in space, just like that movie showed. And gosh, I can't believe I forgot what that movie's called. It's going to kill me until I remember that. And then, of course, somebody's going to post it in the comments, or somebody's saying it right now in their head and screaming at me. That's what's happening. And, yeah. I have gone brain dead. I have gone 100% brain dead. Let's read this. With the launch of Season 12, the Tzenkethi are bringing the fight to captains on 2 new fronts. Here's all the details on our newest cues, Gravity Kills and the Tzenkethi front. To make their proto-matter, the Tzenkethi must synthesize exotic particles from highly distorted areas of space. Their collection efforts have spurred them to create a microquasar hypermass, a compacted area of space-time that emits the necessary particles, with special facilities around it for collecting and processing. Colloquially, they've created a black hole. Oh gosh. So they have literally created a black hole to extract this protomatter out of. That's a bold thing to do. Join the IKS Core and the USS Jupiter in assaulting, straight out assaulting, the Tzenkethi processing stations near the hypermass. Collect particles and fight off Tzenkethi ships so the Allied forces can disable the production facilities. Since the Tzenkethi factories are filled with volatile and dangerous protomatter, they could have devastating effects in an explosion. Use the hypermass itself to destroy them, but don't get caught beyond the event horizon. Nothing survives the tidal forces of a hypermass. I would say not. Gravity Kills is a new 5-player cross-faction queue. This queue is designed for level 60 players with normal, advanced, and elite versions. I look forward to this. I like the idea of using gravity as like a thing, as a weapon even, to take out the station. Just using gravity in a unique way is very, very, very cool. Very sci-fi. I like it. So that's cool. I like that. The Tzenkethi front. The Tzenkethi have established a line of weapon platforms along the border. They are slowly moving them forward, leaving world after world sterilized in their wake. Their bases are particularly impregnable, but our scientists have discovered a potential weakness. The bases are vulnerable to the Tzenkethi's own protomatter weapons. Our intelligence suggests the next place they will strike is the Eta Serpentis system. The second planet in that system is inhabited. We must defend that world and stop the Tzenkethi advance. The Klingons were able to complete a starbase in orbit of the planet to defend the planet from protomatter bombs. Right now, that starbase is all that stands between the Tzenkethi and the extinction of an entire world. We must help them hold the line. Defeat the Tzenkethi attackers, retrieve their protomatter bombs, and then fly them back to the enemy bases to destroy them. Be advised, the Tzenkethi will recover their bombs if you are defeated. Eliminate their bases and force the Tzenkethi to withdraw from Eta Serpentis before it's too late. The Tzenkethi front is a new 5-player cross-faction queue for level 60 players with normal, advanced, and elite. That to me sounds a lot like the one with the Planet Killer. And I forgot the name of that one too. The Doomsday Machine. And you have to go take the warp cores and put them in front of them and then fly back and forth and all that. Kind of sounds like that. You have to like catch these bombs and like drag them away or something. So these two are the Qs, the new STFs we'll call them. And then the third thing we're getting is the actual Battlezone. So actually they're releasing 3 things here. 2 STF Qs and 1 Battlezone. So that's 3. Not bad for a season release. I mean, that's pretty average. My problem or question with this, and I've said this before actually in game and to other people, and my problem with this is it too much? Are they releasing too many STFs into the game? Are they releasing too many battle zones? Is the player base big enough to saturate those STFs and those battle zones? My answer to that is no. What ends up happening is during the initial launch of these new STFs, yes, we will have a lot of people playing them because they're new, and people will want to play them and, of course, earn those marks for the reputation. These STFs will be the way you get the marks for the Lucari reputation, so you have to play them. So up front, they will get a lot of playtime. But over time, the player base will drop off from playing these STFs, especially once they've all completed their reputations and gotten the gear they want from the reputations, and people will stop playing the STFs if they're long or hard or not fun. So that is what happens in this game. If you look back to older STFs that have been out in this game forever, that do offer reputation marks and that kind of thing, there's been a huge drop-off. There are a lot of STFs people just don't play anymore. In fact, a lot of them are abandoned. A lot of them are like, you just can't even get in a queue anymore. Even if you want to pug it, you could sit there for hours before you even could get into one because there's not enough people, even 5 people, to get together and play one. Because people don't play them anymore. The player base isn't big enough to sustain the amount of STF queues and battle zones they have. There's actually like 4 or 5 battle zones. You've got, a lot of people forget the Voth battle zone. You've got the whole Voth battle zone on ground in the Dyson sphere. You've also got the Undine battle zone in space in that one. Then you've got the Terran Badlands battle zone, and now we're going to have this new battle zone. That's a lot of battle zones, and they take a lot of people to complete. With that many battle zones, I don't know there's going to be enough people to actually spread out to all the other battle zones. Everyone's going to go start playing this new one, and then the other ones are going to be abandoned and fall off. There's not going to be anybody there to play those. That happens, and that's what's going to happen. I think there's too many STFs and too many battle zones for the player base that's in this game. It's just too small to handle all of that. You know, but they seem content on just releasing more and more and more. Just willy-nilly, more. But that doesn't solve the problem of the previous ones. They're not being played anymore. So I don't know what the answer is, but I believe what they should do is make every STF have an option of marks. Some of the STFs have that, where you get to choose what mark rewards you want at the end of it. I believe all of the STFs should have a choice of mark rewards. That way you can play any STF you want and know that you'll be able to get any mark of reputation you want from that STF. I think that would help some of the older ones that maybe people don't play anymore, would maybe get played a little bit more if they had, options for other marks. Then maybe some people would play those again, just out of fun or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer, but I think it would be a good idea. But that's my opinion on all this stuff. I don't know. I'm just saying they're releasing more STFs, and when I go into the game to these queues, I already see that a lot of them are dead. So I'm just thinking, well, here's more that are just gonna divide the user base even more. It's gonna thin it out. It's just gonna thin the STF player base out even more than it already is, and it already is a big problem. And they're just expanding that problem, and they don't really have an answer for it. They just keep putting out more STFs and queues, which I don't think is the answer. I think they need to cut back, to be honest. Or make them shorter and easier and not as long. People like an STF nowadays that you can go in and just do quickly and get your marks. Like ISA, you do it in 5 minutes or less, and you're done and you have your marks. People like that. So I think maybe they need to make some of these STFs a little less complicated, a little quicker. Get in, get out, get your marks. Maybe that would help some of these be played a little more. Maybe. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on all that. But for Season 12 news, now we know that Season 12 is coming out January 26th. We know it's going to be part of the anniversary. We know there's going to be a playable featured episode of Signs and Portents that I cannot wait to play. There's going to be a ship. There's going to be the Tier 6 Lucari Science Ship. There's going to be a Lucari Reputation. There's going to be 2 new STFs and 1 new Battlezone. So we actually have a pretty good amount of content coming up to keep us busy. I just wonder how interesting it's going to be, because they hit a pretty high mark for number 1 with the ending of the Iconian stuff. All those Iconian missions and rewards, and the Iconian reputation itself has been extremely popular. All of that they hit a real high note on, and then they went through the temporal stuff and they hit another high note. They had the temporal reputation, which is also extremely good, and they had the temporal ships and the temporal missions and the original Star Trek playthrough. I mean, they hit a really high note here recently, and now it's almost like restarting the game. They're coming from a high, they hit a climax, but it seems like they're coming down off that climax a bit with this Lucari stuff. It's not as interesting as the previous stuff has been. So the question is, can it be, or will it be, as interesting? Does it feel like the game is coming off of a climax and going down a little bit on the ladder? Or can they maintain that? Do you think that the Tzenkethi stuff will be interesting enough to keep the game at a high? I'd like to know your opinions on that as well, because I kind of feel like it's not going to be at that same level as it has been recently. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know if it will be extremely interesting or not. I'm willing to give it a chance, though, for sure, and see where it all goes. Well, guys, that's it. That's what I got. That's the news. This has been a 1 hour long Star Trek Online news video. A lot of information there. Very much worth it. I will make another news video as the season approaches, or once it's released. I will make a video that goes over all the new stuff you can do. And once it's released on the 26th, I'll go in game and I'll make a video just on what you can do with the game with Season 12, so you know the things you can go do. And then after that, I will make a video on each of those things. Probably I'll play Signs and Portents first. And then I'll go show you everything else. I'll do the STFs, I'll do the Battlezone, and all the other stuff, whatever you can do during the event or during Season 12. The event, obviously, the anniversary event is a limited time, but the Season 12 is, of course, permanent stuff. So all the stuff that's coming will be permanent, but the things like the Party Patrol
and that kind of stuff are only for the anniversary event. But I'll kind of separate that more when it's all released to let you know what's part of the anniversary and what's part of season 12. Anyway, thank you all for watching. This is going to be, I think, a very good 2017. Star Trek Online, still alive, still kicking. And as long as it's kicking, I'm going to kick along with it. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.